Hey, Michael G. Davis. Welcome to the Create Your New Life. I am your host, Michael G. Davis, CEO, Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, aka Professor X, Realtor Plus Business Coach. Excited to be here with you once again on this Thursday edition. We were not able to do our regular Tuesday, but that's all right. We're here. I'm here with you today on Thursday because we still don't get it in. We are going to get it in today. It's a jam-packed show or session, as I'll say, for us today. Got a lot that we're going to jump into. But first, want to say thank you to those that are checking us out, whether that's on our YouTube channel or whether that is on our, somebody's maybe sent you the text. So you want to thank them for doing that for you. You know, we want to welcome you to today's session. If you hear anything that really stands out to you that we talk about today, that you want to maybe take some time to sit down and hear a little bit more about what our company has to offer, I will be showing a link a little later, and you can take advantage of that. So here we go. I always start our show off with, I need to stop saying show, but I always start our sessions off with a couple of ground rules, right? So let's jump into these ground rules. Well, I guess they're not really ground rules, just how we always started off. All right, so first of all, we are on social media. I believe that our YouTube channel is the best place to really get an idea of who we are, what our persona is as an organization. So I would say start there. But we have a Facebook page. We do our mastermind through tough times through our Facebook page, so you definitely want to be a part of, or be connected to that. But also on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I have a personal Facebook, and I've just added TikTok, so I have a TikTok account as well. So you can find us on social media. Social media is the platform. We really utilize that a lot to get substance, information, content. We're constantly, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, putting stuff out on our social media platforms, so that is accessible to you. Also, what's up, Margaret? Margaret made it in. Margaret made it. What's going on? All right, so remember I did say that I would be offering the opportunity. I'll be putting a link out there. So if you hear something as we go through our session today and it really stands out to you and you feel like, you know what, man, I need to at least go and sit down and talk a little bit more about what these guys are offering, here's your opportunity. That's the link right there. We can do it online. We can do it in person, whatever fits your fancy. It won't take long, and we'll be able to spend some time, get to know you, learn a little bit about you, and see if it's a fit or not. So that opportunity is there. Take advantage. And then we offer CE credit. CE stands for Continuing Education through our providership. So for our agents like Margaret who taking part in our Create Your New Life session, you know, as long as they're logged in when the session begins, show the instructor identification, but we don't do that on camera. I'm able to see the student the entire time, and as long as they stay on the entire time, then they are good to go as far as getting that CE credit. So the opportunity is there for our agents to capitalize off of getting their CEs taken care of through attending our Create Your New Lives. Now, the title for today is Prepare a Negotiation One Sheet. So we're going to introduce a tool where we're going to introduce this tool, and we're going to show how to best position yourself to be effective and successful in the negotiation, right? Today is going to be the last day for our 10-part series, so we're going to put a cherry on top of that thing, and we're going to pass the cake along, right? So today, you know, it was a phenomenal series, I believe. Now we're going to go package it after today's session, package it all up, put it in a playlist on our YouTube channel for the world to see. So also, we're going to spend a little time in core looking at why it's important to never stop learning and improving. Also going to look at something that let's see, no, that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so we're going to talk about why it's important about exceeding expectations. That's what we're going to do. Also going to talk about how our realtors, our agent members have an opportunity to pay $0 in monthly fees. And then now I still have on here about the discussion, but we actually did the discussion on Tuesday. That was a great event. If you weren't able to attend, there we go. Margaret waving, because it was a phenomenal one. But we are going to talk about an event that is coming up here for the 28th. That's going to be a great event as well. So we got a jam-packed show, and we are excited about getting that done. Now, the quote that I asked today is, "There is no illusion greater than fear." The reason that we chose that is because based on last week's, based on the way Chris ended the book, his words of encouragement as you went away was, don't allow fear to cause you to be ineffective in your desires to negotiate, right? So I thought that today's quote from Lao Tzu, and Lao Tzu is the father of Taoism in China, so he's a legendary figure, supposedly lived between the 6th and 4th BC, but this is where, so philosophically, he holds a lot of weight spiritually as far within the country of China. Very, very wise individual, Lao Tzu, and this is his quote: "There is no illusion greater than fear." Because the reality is that, and I know some people use this as the acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real, right? But we got to understand that a lot of times the fear that is crippling us, preventing us from moving forward, is it's a perception. Right? It's perceived. It's not actually reality. It's an illusion. As Lao Tzu says. I like to say about that. All right, so we got another person came on board. What's going on, Risha, one of our newest affiliates? She's come on with us. So we're in the middle of it, Ro. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. If you do want to say something, all you got to unmute yourself, and we'll take care of it for you. So let me go ahead and mute Ro, so she don't impact our time together. All right, boom. So we got Wo, but again, she's one of our newest affiliates. She has some things in place. She has been licensed already before, but her license went inactive too long, so she's getting back into the business. We're excited about that. Very excited to see her jump on board. So welcome back, Ro. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into our next portion, which is our moment in core. So let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into our moment in core. So, our core ideology is who we are, who's the makeup of Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm. And it's made up of our core goal, right? Our big, hairy, audacious goal, our core purpose, our core mission. It's not a purpose, it's a mission, something that we look to achieve, and our 5 core values. So the value that we want to emphasize today is exceeding the expectations of our clients, customers, and our colleagues, right? So for us, it's not just about meeting expectations. We want to, whenever anyone's doing business with us, we want to blow them away, right? So that's what we go into it as far as what makes us different is that we go into it with the mind frame of not just giving the client or the customer or our colleagues what they expect. We go into it with the mind frame of how can we enhance the vision that they've walked in having with what this interaction is going to be. So that's why for us, it's core for us to walk into it with that intent, with the intention to not just satisfy the client or satisfy the customer, but to exceed the expectations of the customer, right? So again, that's just one of our 5 core values which makes us who we are as a real estate organization, Brooks & Davis real estate firm. Okay, so now with that being said, now the next thing that we typically do is that we jump into the production, like how we've grown, what's in pipeline, how's everybody doing. So right now we have our updated pending numbers for the week. Let's see. All right, so this is how we're rocking as far as for the week. Sydney Ely is further solidifying her position in that #1 spot. She brought on some added contracts, but we did get my favorite realtor. My favorite realtor made it back to the board, Miss LaQuana Davis, by adding some production to the board herself. So way to go, babe. Let's do it. Let's do it. But she's riding out that #2 spot, and then LaKendra is in it with the #3. So they didn't bump my boys off again. It's being controlled by the women, but that's cool. Congratulations, ladies, for being the top 3 producing agents. As you can see, we're getting closer to our goal of where we want to be, which is the $5 million worth of income, production. I'm sorry, $5 million worth of production that we carry at any given week, right? So every week when I come on here and I present the numbers, we want those numbers to be at or above $5 million, right? So yeah, let's go, Margaret. Margaret talking about them numbers looking good. Yeah, we getting there, man. We're excited about it. And look, we want every single one of you all to take advantage, because guess what? There's $108,000, almost $109,000 worth of commission payout that's in the bucket. So people are about to get checks. We want you to be able to be one of those people getting one of these checks. Get a piece of that 108, and I know you can do it. So what does that mean? We got to get it going. Let's go, people. Work with your buyers, get them under contract, and let's get it done, because that's how you get on the pending board. It's not about what you closed on, not what you dumped. It's about what you, not about what you've done for me. I mean, it's about what you've done for me lately, man. I can't get the words out of my mouth today, man. Must be because it's Thursday, not Tuesday. My body's used to being Tuesday when we do these, so I got to get caught up. But again, yeah, great numbers. Excited about that, about where we're going as far as production and where we're moving with the company. Okay, so let's see what is next. I think what we do next is we jump into our proprietary programming. So today, one of the things that we're going to focus on today, or we're going to showcase, not focus on, but one of the things that we're going to showcase today when it comes to our proprietary programming, right? Because see, this is our mural where we highlight, we show all of the things that we offer, that we are proud about, that we offer as an organization, right? It's a multitude of value that we bring, and it's something that gives us a sense of fulfillment. But the one that I want to speak to today is actually not on the mural because I really didn't have a visual that I could use to represent it, right? So the one today is there's a $0, there's an opportunity for our agents to not have to pay member dues, right? Guys, hold on for me real quick. Hey, Jess, you do me a favor? Bring that cord, and let's plug that cord in here. All right, so I'm having Jess, she's bringing over the Ethernet cord. I just want to make sure that our connection is strong. Let me just have it right here. There we go. All right, y'all say, what's up, Jess?
What's up?
Most brokers that are having any kind of effect, doing any kind of production, providing any kind of value to their agent members.
It blinked out and then came.
Yeah, I know. That's okay, because when I plugged that cord in, it probably beeped out. But now we're back. I'm gonna have to merge my recordings, but that's okay. All right, so let's go into what I was talking about, the opportunity for our agents to not have to pay anything in member dues. That's what we were talking about. Okay, so now I was saying that most brokerage firms, when you go to them, if they're offering any kind of value to their agent members, then 9 times out of 10, or really I would say 10 times out of 10, they are charging some kind of monthly fee, because in reality it's no way that you can sustain a business without having some type of consistent cash or flow of cash to sustain it, right? So unfortunately, I don't say unfortunately, but real estate is a pipeline business. So as the deals, you got to wait on the deals. It creates what's called a cash gap, right? And you got to have some kind of mechanism in place to deal with that cash gap, and that's typically what monthly dues do. They or monthly fees do for a brokerage firm. It's deal with the cash gap that's caused when you don't have that influx of money, or you're waiting on that money, waiting on the pipeline to turn over, right? Well, at Brooks & Davis, although we do have monthly and quarterly member dues, depending on what plan that you're a part of, we have what's called a transaction waiver, right? And matter of fact, it is quarterly dues. We have what's called a transaction waiver. And what that means is, for every transaction that our agent members successfully complete, and that could be an apartment, that could be a rental, that could be a buyer, or that could be a seller. So one of those 4 transactions, if they accomplish that in a quarter, because member dues are paid quarterly, if they accomplish, for everyone that they accomplish, they get $100 of their member dues waived, right? And if you're quick with your math, right, our member dues are $350 a quarter, but if they're paid on time, they get a $50 rebate, $300. So if they do 3 transactions, if our agent members do, all they got to do is 3 transactions in a quarter. That's 1 transaction a month. Doesn't matter if it's an apartment, tenant, buy or sell, just one transaction a month, then all of their member dues are waived. We call that platinum status, right? You do 3 transactions a quarter, you've hit platinum status. If you hit platinum status, you don't pay, right? So we call that our transaction waiver. That's a part of our transaction waiver program, where our commission-based agents are able to take advantage of that program, and guess what? Be in a position to where they're with a broker that's offering them all of this value, the utmost value through our one-on-one coaching, through the digital lead generation system, through our Success in Real Estate Machine software, and a host of all the other things that we offer. Our commission split agents will be receiving that at no monthly cost, a truly $0 situation through our transaction waiver program. So that is the thing that we want to highlight today as far as our proprietary programming, something of value that we provide, that we bring to our agents on a consistent basis. All right, perfect. Now that we've talked about that, let's talk about an event that we have coming up. Let's see, am I still sharing the screen? Nope, not sharing the screen. Matter of fact, you can kind of see the flyer behind me, but I'm going to go ahead and blow it up so you can see it in person. We are presenting co-founder, serial entrepreneur, author, multi-million-dollar producer. He participated in building the largest black-owned independent brokerage firm in the U.S. Yes, Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm is the largest black-owned independent brokerage firm in the United States. And he's been a part of over 1,000+ transactions. So Margaret, it bleeped again?
Yes, and your screen is not showing anymore. You're not sharing.
Okay, let me fix it. All right. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes.
All right, awesome. He's helped over, like I said, he's become a multi-million-dollar producer. He's helped over 100 realtors, hundreds of realtors growing their career. He's grown his social media presence. Instagram has over 35,000 followers. We are bringing in Texas Real Estate King man himself, Larry W. Brooks, co-founder, to have a conversation to where individuals can learn from the king, right? King of real estate. Because if you want to have any kind of success in this business, there's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel. So on May 28th at 5 o'clock at our Coaching and Training Center, where I am coming to you live, Coaching and Training Center, we will be having the King of Real Estate. He will be talking, giving his secrets away. We're going to have some light refreshments. Those will be served. So we highly encourage you to reserve your seat now, right? While supplies last, what they say. Reserve your seat now for the event on May 28th, 5 o'clock. I'm really excited about that. He's also written, he's written another book, so that's going to be serving his book launch as well. So be prepared, you know, hey, come see what his book is all about. Maybe you'll pick up a copy or so, but it's going to be a phenomenal time together. So we're inviting our agent members, we're inviting our affiliate members, and then we're going to be inviting some other key members. Yeah, yes, Margaret, conversation with the king. Absolutely, that's what it's going to be all about on May 28th. So we hope you all can make it. All right, so and we're gonna continue to be sending information out and marketing out about it, so you don't forget. So you ain't got to worry about that. We got you covered. Okay. All right. So now for the rest of our time together, we are going to jump into finishing up our series. Never split the difference. Negotiating as if your life depended on it. I mean, we have dug into this thing. We have. I mean, like with a fine-tooth comb, we pulled out all the juice when it comes to this book, and we're going to put a wrap on it today. So before I get into the recap, just to make sure that we really get into the information about the one-pager, and we dig into that so we don't run out of time, I'm going to start there, and then if we have time to recap it, we will. If we don't, no worries. Guess what? We recorded all of the sessions, and you can go back and look at it. right? Or even better, get the book and read the book, right? Read the book, study the book, do all of that. I highly encourage you to create a consistent diet of, because you're not gonna get it reading it one time. I promise you, you're not, right? So it's gonna require you to get into it probably a couple of more times. Like, this is my 4th time really digging in and diving into the book to really get an understanding of what he's talking about and to expand my skill set around negotiating. So don't think it's an easy read. Well, I'll say it's not a hard read, but the concepts that he's talking about are higher level concepts. So it's going to take you doing it on a number of times before it really clicks for you on how to apply, because it's all about application and execution before you're able to truly apply and execute on the strategies that he talks about in the book. All right. So today, in the last part of the book, it's the appendix. Right here in the appendix, he has what's called a negotiation one sheet. And you know, as we go through the sections of the negotiation one sheet, the thing that I really want you to focus on or to remember is what he's really saying is, whenever you go into a negotiation, you got to be prepared, right? Because when the pressure is on, and negotiations are pressure-charged circumstances, when the pressure is on, you rise to the occasion to the highest level of your preparation, right? So you're going to either fall or rise to the highest level of your preparation. So if you go into it with no preparation, when it gets pressed, that's what's going to happen. Like, you're going to not be able to be as effective as you could have been, right? But if you do prepare and you create this one sheet, which we're about to talk about, then when the pressure does begin to build, you'll have a better chance of still accomplishing what your goal was to accomplish, right? So that's what all of this is about that we're going to talk about today. All right. So now, when talking about the one sheet, the first section is the goals section, right? So hopefully you guys are taking some notes, right? I'm going to, while you're going through it, I'm going to show my desktop. Yeah, so at least you guys can see a little bit from what I'm reading from, okay? So the first section is the goal, right? And what that is all about, what the goal is all about, is in any negotiation, you should have an idea of the outcome that you want, right? So whether that's a particular price, you know, if you're going in to meet with somebody and the idea is for them to hire you to be their buyer's agent, then your goal is, you know, your goal is not to get hired, right? You want to place your goal in the world of your counterpart. So your goal would be to give the buyer enough information so they would feel comfortable hiring you, right? Because you can't control someone else taking action. You can't do that. But traditional methods of negotiation, they would have us believe that that's within our control. But that's not within our control. What's in our control is influence. How we can influence, or the best way for us to influence someone to move in the direction that we want them to. So a great goal when you're going to meet with a buyer, or even if you're going to meet with a seller, a great goal would be to provide them enough information of the value that you would bring, which would influence them to hire you over anybody else, right? So guess what that does? That takes you going into it with a whole different mind frame of what you look to achieve. Now, it's the same thing as if you're working with your client and now you guys are about to negotiate an offer. Okay, well, what's the goal? The goal is to structure the outcome in such a way to where it influences not just the counterpart, but it also influences who you represent to accept it, right? So the goal is, again, what you can control, provide enough structure to the transaction to where you get agreement from both sides. So again, that's a great goal. You know, one of the things that he points out is in this section, he calls it the BATNA, and he says that that's a centerpiece dynamic of traditional preparation, but he calls it negotiation's greatest Achilles heel, right? He calls it the BATNA. And he says the BATNA is basically, it's the best possible option you have if the negotiation fails. An example that he uses is, say you're on a car lot trying to sell your old BMW 3 Series. If you already have another dealer who's giving you a written offer for $10,000, then that's your BATNA. But he says the problem with BATNA is that it tricks negotiators into aiming low, right? So what he's saying is, if you already got somebody that's willing to give you $10,000, if you go into it and you set your goal of saying, okay, you know what, I want $10,000 or above, then you're tricking yourself into aiming low. Because somebody else may be willing to give you 20 or 30 or 40,000, but you haven't even opened your mind up to it because what you're already sitting with. And you know, guilty as charged. I mean, I've done that in negotiations as well, to where if we got an offer on a house and it's a lowball offer, we may shoot for, you know, a certain amount of dollars above this offer versus saying to ourselves, this is our goal, this is our true goal, and this is what we're shooting for. So section 1 of your one sheet, so when you're sitting down and you're preparing yourself for the negotiation, again, it's all about preparation. If you don't take anything else away from what we're talking about today, the one thing I need you to take away is you got to make sure that you're prepared when you go into the negotiation. So don't just be haphazard about it. So now he gives us actually gives us 4 steps. He actually gives us 4 steps on how to set an optimistic but reasonable goal. I like that. Optimistic but reasonable, right? Okay? Not realistic, optimistic but reasonable. So first he says, set an optimistic but reasonable goal and define it clearly. So you got to be clear on how you define the goal, right? And again, like some of the examples that I gave earlier, it has to be clearly defined what your intention is. The next thing you want to do is you want to write it down. After you write down your goal, you want to discuss it with a colleague, right? Because then this makes it harder to wimp out, right? Chris calls win-win negotiations, he calls them wimp-win negotiations, meaning you lose, you wimped out, and put yourself in a position where the other side wins. So he wants you to discuss the goal with the colleague. It makes it harder to wimp out. And then you carry the written goal into the negotiation. So now, again, you're going to have your one sheet. So it's going to be written on your one sheet in section 1. So that's a way for you to carry it into the negotiation. All right. So now that takes us to section 2. So we talked about the goal. Section 2 is the summary. And what you're summarizing, what you're adding a summary of to your one sheet is the facts that have led up to the negotiation. Now, the facts that have led up to it. And it's just a couple of sentences, right? So it's not going to be a paragraph. What you're going to do is you're going to sit down and you're going to think through how have we gotten to this point? How have you gotten to the point to where now you're finna go and meet with the seller? What are the facts that brought you there? How have you gotten to the point to where you're going to meet with the buyer? You know, what are the facts? You know, was it that this person was referred by a past client, right? So that's fact number one. And from that referral, you had the conversation, and and the fact is that they now want to purchase a home. They're wanting to pick a realtor, and now you set the appointment. So those are facts that have led up to where you are right now. Same thing if you're working with a client and somebody submitted an offer on the house. Well, what are the facts? The fact is they've submitted an offer. The facts are these are the terms of the offer that was submitted. Fact is you have a client that wants to sell their house. We've been on the market. Another fact is how many days you've been on the market. What do you have it listed at? Like, all of these are facts that you could put into your summary as you prepare for the negotiation, right? Because the reality is that if you're dealing with a seasoned negotiator, and you always want to assume you are, then they're going to come prepared. They're going to come prepared to argue an interpretation of the facts, and they're going to argue it in a way that favors them. So you want to think through it because you're going to have to get them on the same page at the outset. So you got to clearly be able to describe the lay of the land before you begin to thinking about acting on its confines. So, you want to know facts. Why are they there? What do they want? Why do they want what they want? So all of that matters, and all of those will be included in your summary. And you got to be able to summarize the situation and summarize it in a way to where you get a that's right. Remember, we talked about that in the previous chapters about the that's right. Because if you don't get a that's right, then you ain't got them. You ain't did it right. Okay? So that's the second section. So the first section is the goal. Second section is the summary. All right. The third section is you want to do labels and an accusation audit, right? So what Chris says is at this section, you want to prepare 3 to 5 labels. And you remember what labels were. That's where you describe how the counterpart is reacting to something that you've said or done or have not said. But you want to prepare 3 to 5 labels to perform an accusation audit, right? So through this process, you're anticipating how your counterpart feels about the facts that you just summarized, right? So you're taking the facts now that you've come up with, and you want to look at it in the eyes of your counterpart. How are they feeling about this stuff? Where are they when it comes to all of this? And you want to make a concise list of any accusations that they may make, no matter how unfair or ridiculous they might be. I mean, guess what? They may feel like your price is ridiculous or outrageous, right? They may feel like if you're going to, on a listing appointment, they may feel like you don't have the experience or the expertise, right? So you want to think through any accusations that your counterpart may be able to present to you and be prepared with some labels, okay? So what Chris says is that you want to think through them, and then you want to turn each accusation into a list of no more than 5 labels and spend a little time role playing it. And then he gives some fill-in-the-blank labels that can be used in nearly every situation. So here's some examples that Chris gives that, you guys have seen this in other areas of the of the series, but here are some examples of fill in the blank labels that can be used to diffuse any accusation. Right? It seems like blah, blah, blah is valuable to you, right? So if somebody's harping on price, then you could say, it seems like you are getting a good deal is valuable to you. Right? Or, hey, it seems like you don't like giving up, 6% commission, something like that. It seems like you value making the most amount of money. It seems like you would prefer making this easier or whatever. So the one thing that you can kind of see with all of these is it seems like whatever the label is, you want to present it in such a way, you're not saying that's what they're doing, you're just saying what it seems like. It lessens the blow because you don't want them to go get all outrageous with you. All right, so now that's section 3. Section 3 is the accusation, audit, and the labels. All right, section 4 is now that you've done that, you want to prepare 3 to 5 calibrated questions to reveal value to you and your counterpart and identify and overcome potential deal killers, right? So now remember, we talked about there are always deal killers awaiting in the bushes. So you got to go into any negotiation with the understanding that they're out there and they're looking to kill your deal. And you may not know who or where they are, but they're there. So don't be naive to it. So section 4 is the calibrated questions. Now, as you're going through looking for the deal killers, effective negotiators, they always look past their counterpart's stated positions, right? What they're demanding. And they delve into the underlying motivations. And underlying motivations are like, what is making them want what they want, right? So effective negotiators look to go into that place to try and unearth what's the underlying thing motivating them, right? Motivations are what they're worried about, what they hope for, even lust for, and figuring out what the other party is worried about. Although it sounds simple, our basic human expectation about negotiation often gets in the way. And the reason is because, remember, we're trying to avoid conflict. And because we feel like it's going to cause conflict, through fear, we don't do it. But we dramatically decrease our chances of being effective in our negotiation when we handle it that way. Most of us tend to assume that the needs of the other side conflict with our own, meaning that whole win-lose scenario, that whole we both can't have what we want. It completely eliminates the idea of collaboration. We tend to limit our field of vision to our issues and problems and forget that the other side has its own unique issues based on its own unique worldview. Great negotiators get past these blinders, and they do it, and Chris brings up this term, I love this term, he calls it relentless curiosity. He says great negotiators get past their blinders by being relentlessly curious about what is really motivating the other side. I love that. And for you to, going into this whole concept and idea of being curiosity, discovery, that's what you got to take when you're engaging with the other side. You have to be, and he says you have to be relentless about it. Meaning, when you start feeling like you've asked enough questions, you just got to keep asking questions because there's something that's still there. When you feel like you may be, that the other party is being irritable or that you're running them the wrong way, when you start getting into this self-talk and creating these false narratives about the situation that you haven't validated because you haven't asked them how they're really feeling, when that starts happening, because it's going to happen, then the way that you be relentless is that you press past it, you acknowledge it. Maybe you ask a calibrated question to validate it, to assure it. Because guess what? As long as they're answering your questions, you keep asking them, right? You want to be relentless in your curiosity, in the questions that you ask, the calibrated questions that you ask. All right. So now, again, he gives a small group of what and how questions to give you an example of what calibrated questions look like, right? You know, some examples, and he says these are calibrated questions you'll find yourself using in nearly every situation. You know, what are we trying to accomplish here? How is that worthwhile? What's the core issue? How does that affect things? What's the biggest challenge you face? How does this fit into what the objective is, right? So Chris says start off by, on your one sheet, go ahead and as you think through your negotiation, identify which of these which of these calibrated questions you can already have ready to go. Because remember, when the pressure gets on, you don't want to be trying to think of them. You want them already to be there to help bring you back into the fold of where what you're really trying to get, what kind of information you're really trying to get out of your counterpart. Now, he also gives us some questions to identify behind the table deal killers. Remember, I told you they're out there lurking. Some of the questions is, how does this affect the rest of your team? So when you're in conversation with someone, throwing out a question of how does this affect the rest of your team may unearth some players in the background that haven't been mentioned, right? Or how on board are the people not on this call, or not on this meeting, or not in this email link? Like, how on board is everybody else? What do your colleagues see as their main challenges in this area? So that's just a couple of questions that will, again, bring to the top some individuals that may not have been in the forefront thus far. So now he also talked about questions that identify and diffuse deal-killing issues. And then he goes into what some of those may look like. Questions to use to unearth the deal-killing issues, or what are we up against here, right? Because, again, your counterpart may be sitting on information. You want to get that information out of them, information that could be critical to execution. Remember, negotiation is all about implementation. So in the beginning, you want to get through the process, right? The negotiation or the implementation process. You want to talk about as much of that as possible in the forefront, right? You want to try to travel that conversation all the way to what this thing looks like when it's being implemented, when it's being executed. So what are we up against here? What could stop it from happening? Again, what's the biggest challenge you face? How does making a deal with us affect things? What happens if you do nothing, right? What does doing nothing cost you? How does making this deal resonate with what your company prides itself on, right? These are questions to help identify possible conflicts in, company or individual values. Like some individual values, religion, remember we talked about that before, hopes and dreams, right? So these questions help see if there's any conflict for what you're offering or what you're wanting your counterpart to do, if there's some conflict that will present itself to cause resistance with that. So he gives some questions as it relates to that as well. And then he just talks about follow-up labels, like when you begin to answer those questions. So now you're thinking through questions to have on your one sheet. So remember, we're still in section 4. Questions to have on your one sheet that are trying to unearth deal-killing issues. So now, as you ask the questions, you also want to make sure that you have labels that are there to address the responses. And he gives some fill-in-the-blank labels. Because again, having the labels will allow you to quickly turn your counterpart's responses back to them, which will keep them feeding you new and expanding information. Remember, with the negotiation, to put yourself in the best situation to achieve your goal, you got to make sure you're able to get out of them as much information as possible through this process. All right, so that's section 4. So section 4, you're going to have your list of calibrated questions to unearth deal killers in the background, calibrated questions to unearth deal killing issues. And then you're going to have your labels associated to deal with that. All right, and then the last section of your one sheet is non-cash offers, right? So you want to have a prepared list of non-cash items that are possessed by your counterpart that would be valuable, right? So if you run into it to where price becomes a dead end, well, you want to be able to pivot to terms to where maybe if you all got some terms or if you're able to squeeze out more value with some of the other terms that maybe matter to who you are representing, maybe don't matter as much to your counterpart, which could make the issue that you're having, the dead end that you're having, not a dead end anymore, right? I'll give you an example. If you're working with, say you're working with a seller, and maybe they're hung up, you're going on a listing agreement and they're hung up on the 6%, and that's a point of contention, and they don't want to budge, what you may pivot to that's a non-cash item or a non-cash offer is, all right, well, instead of doing a 12-month listing, say we'll do a 6-month listing, right? So if you agree to the 6%, instead of it being 6% for 12 months, you do 6% for 6 months, or say 3 months. That may be something that the seller, it would be willing to entice the seller to agree to paying the higher commission. But now, guess what? For you as a realtor, whether it's a 90-day or a 6-month or a 12-month, in reality, none of that should matter to you as a realtor because you don't get paid until it's sale. So you want to make sure you have your process in place to where you can sell it as fast as possible so you can get paid. So if he's only giving you 90 days, doesn't matter. Get it sold within 90 days. Okay? If it can be sold. But that's just an example of utilizing non-cash items and having a list of that already prepared on your one sheet. So again, you're not having to guess. So that's the 5th section. A way to really determine what those are is you might want to ask yourself, what could they give that would almost get us to do it for free? Like, what could they give? What terms, what items, what non-cash things could the counterpart give you to where price wouldn't even matter? It's just that sweet of a deal, right? I mean, hey, look, the seller may be willing to offer, them to give you access. Maybe they have a large database of people, and then they'll send a recommendation email to their entire database of your company. Maybe if you put together a flyer or an ad, they'll include you in some type of promotion. Maybe they'll invite you over to, maybe they're having a housewarming or a dinner party or something. They'll invite you to the dinner party so you can meet some other high cap. So those are examples of non-cash items that you could leverage to get, enhanced value, I guess, out of what you're doing, right? All right, so those are the 5 sections of the one sheet. Remember, section 1 is the goal. Section 2, the summary. Section 3, you want to do the audit, accusation audit, and labels. Section 4, you're going to have your calibrated questions, and make sure you have questions that deal with unearthing behind-the-scene deal killers, that deal with unearthing issues that may be deal killers. And section 5 is your non-cash offers that may be available to you through the negotiation as well. All right. So with that being said, that's it. Like that wraps up our series. So what I highly encourage you to do is, again, to go back through the book, go back through the videos that we've done, take some notes and really get an understanding of how to utilize these psychological tactics and tools. That's what was given here. Psychological tactics and tools for you to utilize to allow you to be effective in your negotiation. And just, in a couple of them, remember the mirroring technique, right? That's a technique. Tactical empathy and utilizing labels. Those are strategies. Understanding yes and the 3 different yeses. Remember the counterfeit versus the committed. And then understanding no and how to best use no and what no means for people. Utilizing summary to get to the that's right. Again, that's another tactic and technique. We talked about where compromise fits, calibrated questions, the 7-38-55% rule when it comes to communication. Remember, 7% is what they're saying, 38% is tone, and 55% is body language. We talked about that. We talked about how to identify when people are lying, if they're using complex sentences, and how often they say their name dictates who's really in control and who's not. So we did all of that. So with that being said, that's all I have. Boom, we got through another. It was a little crazy. Our internet was playing with us today. I don't know. Again, it's because it was Thursday, it wasn't Tuesday. So even the internet's used to it being on Tuesday. But that's all right. It's all good. All right. So y'all have any questions? Ro, you got any questions? Thanks, Ro. Ro said it was a great session. You got any questions? Margaret, you got any questions?
No question.
No questions. All right, Margaret. So this is the end. We're done. You going to go back through it?
I am.
Awesome. All right. So our next session is going to be a 10-part series. We're going to look at how to become beasts at social media marketing. So we're going to begin that session. I may begin it next week, but I may put a week in between and then pick it up that next week. I haven't quite decided just yet, but that is what our next session is going to be. We're going to begin that. We got our hands on some great information from social media expert. And I don't even want to, for who this person is, I don't even want to call them a social media expert. They are a social media wizard is what we're going to say. And we are going to take their techniques. We're going to comb it, dig in, just like we did Chris in negotiation, right? That's kind of going to be our theme moving forward with our Create Your New Lives. We're going to look for experts. We're going to look for the best people at what they're doing, and we're going to study it, and we're going to inundate ourselves with that information for us to get better. So that's what's coming up down the pipeline. All right, with that being said, let us wrap this up.
Is it from the king?
No. So say that again. What is it? What, Margaret?
Is it from the king of real estate? Is that the social media expert that you're referring to?
Oh, no. The king of real estate, he cold-blooded. But the person we about to go through, oh, man, he is, like I said, he's a wizard. Like, he's a social media, I'll put it like, if the king of real estate, when it came to his social media presence, was, say, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, I use real estate analogy. He a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The person we're gonna be studying is the White House, right? We talk about, yeah, it's that. It's gonna be like that. So, that's what we talk about. That's what we're gonna be taking from. All right, so yeah, so as I said earlier, you want seed credit. You know, there's opportunity there. It's something that we offer to our agents that take advantage of the CYNL. If you heard anything, you feel like the type of attention, the one-on-one coaching that we offer to our agent members, you know, if you want to be in a position to where if you are producing, you're not having to pay monthly fees, what we talked about, then look, on top of the one-on-one coaching and all the other stuff, the accessibility to the broker, you know, the events that we host, our beautiful coaching and training center. Like if it's time for a change for you, you're stagnant in your real estate business in your current situation, go ahead and schedule that online or that in-person company introduction so you can learn more about the better options that are accessible to you. All you got to do is go to that link. All right? And then the last thing is social media is our platform to really, in addition to the information and the substance that we offer to our agent members, we're kind of like Bluebell ice cream. We eat all we can and we sell the rest. So with us is that we take and we utilize all the research as we grow, get information, we learn, we get better. We take all that in and then we give some of it to the people on social media, right? So that's how our social media platform. So we encourage you to follow us on social media. All right. With that being said, let me make sure I'm cranked up, and we about to wrap this thing up. No, we are done. We are done. We wrapped up our 10-part series, revealing a powerful tool in the one sheet. As you begin to go into your negotiation, we talked about what's important about exceeding expectations when practicing real estate. We talked about how our agents can capitalize on that transaction waiver to where they're not paying anything monthly. They're doing deals. And look, we talked about our event, Conversation with the King. I loved it, Margaret. Conversation with the King, May 28th. That's coming up. So reserve your seat. And with that being said, I am your host, CEO Michael G. Davis, CEO Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, Realtor plus Business Coach, a.k.a. Professor X. We had another great session. We'll be talking to you soon. Coaching you into the cosmos. It's time to take off. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.